About like a month ago, I talked about how I had finally caught up on Fire Force because I was waiting to see how most of the final season was getting received so that I didn't waste my time watching the show. And then I saw that it was getting like well received and some people were like liking it. So I decided to watch the rest of the show. I'm not gonna like fully reiterate what I said in that original video. So like if you're for some reason curious about what I had to say, you can go back and watch it. But I kind of want to talk about like I guess my more overall thoughts on the show now that it's finally ended. So if you haven't seen the ending of Fire Force or you want to see Fire Force at all, I guess spoilers ahead and watch out for yourself. But like I think overall, I'm just gonna get this out like right now. It's just like, did I like the show? I thought it was pretty good. I did say in the first video that I made that I really didn't like the first two seasons. I didn't think they were terrible, but they really didn't like stick out for me, and that's still kind of held true. But I did really like what they're doing in this last season, and I think that's kind of what brought the show back around for me. Is that it at least was like pulling everything together in an effective way, and so I thought that was really cool. I thought all the fights in the final season were really cool and all that stuff, especially like I said this before the episode 14 with Benny Maru fighting his old master and doing his Nietzsche, and that was pretty awesome. And also, this was something that I heard about in advance that the Arthur fight against Dragon would have been really cool, and it was pretty cool. And I really liked the way that it was animated, and I think that I really like how Arthur bought into the bullshittery of the entire like final season, where like he's the perfect guy for where your mentality affects how you exist in the world, because he's just the most schizophrenic motherfucker of all time, and he got buffed. And I think that was kind of fun. And like I talked about how I really liked how Idol became like, their thoughts and like your perceptions of the world, like perceptions of stuff. And I liked how like it started to blend in the world in real life. And I really liked how what they did with Adela, which is like one of the main reasons why I started bringing myself around to liking the show. And I literally just said this, but I did like the show. I thought it was like a good wrap up where Shinra becomes Shinra Bancho Man and kind of just makes it so that, he has to confront this idea of like, it's going to be an eventuality where like the main reason why the spontaneous human combustion happens is because people are afraid of death, people value their lives, and they really do not want to die. And so I think it was a creative way to end that by just saying, what if we just have people value life less? What if we just make it so that, people's lives are not as important as they used to be? And I thought, what? Sure, that's a good way to handle it. It was kind of funny. It's kind of like, I guess, but I think that was a neat way to go around handling how do you solve the big issue that lies in the world, which is that people are naturally afraid of dying, and this is like that's the main reason for why you're having all these issues in the world, is that people are afraid of death, and because of that, they manifest their own death in the real world, and they fucking explode. Something that I really like too, I guess, with also with Shinra, is just like, he didn't just perfectly aura farm the entire time. Like, he did fuck up when they killed Obi. He did, like, have a mental breakdown, which is, entirely fair and entirely cool. So it wasn't just, like, the entire time where Shinra was just this, like, effectively infallible character the entire way through. And that, he, even though he was, like, doing this, like, monologue of, like, I'm the hero, I'm never gonna, like, go insane, I'm never gonna mess up or anything. He does kind of lose it a little bit when Obi's throat gets slit. And then, makes the Great Cataclysm happen and fuck everyone up, which I, was kind of surprised to see. I was kind of like thinking that the show would just go, kumbaya, everything's happy. Shinra's this god who's infallible in its entirety, and there's nothing that he can do wrong. And I'm happy they didn't do that, because I thought that was something that they might have done. I will say, though, I did have an issue with, like, Obi's death and the way it was presented, is because, like, as soon as I saw them showing Obi interacting with people without showing him his face, I'm like, okay, he's a doppelganger, and something bad's gonna happen. And then something bad did happen. So like, even though like it was like a minute of time or a minute and a half of time where like you're kind of like, oh, who's this Obi guy? Why are they not showing his face? It still was predictable that he was gonna like, the doppelganger was gonna do some bad shit because they weren't showing his face. And I felt that made it like really clear that this was a Obi doppelganger doing some misdeeds. And I feel like even if they just showed the face of the doppelganger, it would have held up a lot more when he cut the real Obi's throat. That's like a little nitpicky thing. It's whatever. It didn't really matter to me, but I feel like I liked how they did that, where they made Shinra just go wacko mode because his goat got killed. And also, like, I'm trying to figure out what that I want to say without like reiterating what I said in the last episode, just to avoid redundancy. I will also say, still think the entire show could have done a better job at like writing women in general. I talked about how I felt like Tamaki's entire idea of how like she's like the spirit of joy is like was really annoying, and I thought it's just an excuse to have her clothes fly off throughout the entire show and then act like no, it was actually vital to the plot. The issues I had with Hibana, like just entire purpose around life being Shinra's existence, also didn't really get solved. Obviously she liked her sisters and she was happy for her sisters to be back, but at the same time, you know, I didn't like how like she was talking about, oh, Shinra's my Oshi, Shinra's my bias and stuff like that. Like I felt that was like, she could have had something more about her than just, being a Shinra stan the entire time and really liking him. And I thought that made her like a really flat character outside of, her desire to, I guess, avenge her sisters, and I guess at the end reunite with her sisters when Shinra brought everybody back. But the number one character that I talked about that I had an issue with was Inka being the single most irrational human being ever to exist in any show that I've watched. I've never seen someone, and I know her backstory is, oh, she was like really like suicidal or whatever, and then the Great Fire happened, and then she went back to like really really wanting to be alive. But the way she goes about it is once again the single most just ridiculously irrational thing I've ever seen. Where like she's just willing to kill fucking anybody to live, and like the fact that she just like immediately goes, I want to see what happens when I go with the white cloak people. I can't remember their name for some reason. The evangelists. What the fuck? And so like I get the idea, and the ending of the show is kind of like everything's good now, but it made me really mad that Inka was not getting punished in any capacity for her being once again the single most insane and irrational human being of all time. And then at the end, her entire motivation with Shinra is just like, yo, have sex with me, I want to carry your child. Like, what the fuck are we doing? What do you mean? Why is she allowed to exist in this world? Like, I'm not saying she should fucking die, because obviously he brought like everybody back overall, but like once again, she shouldn't be rewarded for her actions. She fucking immediately said, I'm just gonna go with the bad guys because I want to see how chaotic the world can get. What are you doing? I do not like you as a character. I thought she was a really stupidly designed character, and I do not understand what the fucking point of her like being the single most irrational human being ever serves to the story, other than we needed someone to be a villain. Let's make it the most clear and cut and annoying person of all time. That might just be a nitpicky me thing. I don't know how the community views Inka as a character, but I legitimately think she's one of the worst written characters humanly possible, because she's just meant to be exceedingly bad for no reason other than just to be bad and to just, I guess, like show the tides of war shifting to the evangelists or something like that. Maybe this is a media literacy thing, but like I legitimately could not understand at a fundamental level the rationality behind Inka in any capacity, even if I understand like she kind of just wants to like do her own thing and like live for herself. I still don't understand why that made her like go for the dudes who just like blew one of her compatriots' entire body off the first time she sees them. I don't know. I think my just like anger with Inka is just further exacerbated by like the criticisms that I have with how the women are written, because like it just seems like the author struggles to write about them, and it's just like making Inka the way that she is, like just I don't know. I can't even like properly articulate it, but like I hope you get the idea of why I have such a massive issue with Inka specifically out of all the characters. And like another thing that I didn't really like, that I'm not saying like this made it bad or anything, but when Shinra brings everyone back to life at the end, I didn't like how he brought people who had like died significantly long ago, or even like I was gonna try to like march the criticism like him bringing back people who died after the Great Cataclysm and stuff like that, or like after like he fucked everything up, and like I was gonna say like, oh, I didn't like how Obi being brought back, but like now that I think about it, that's fine that he got brought back, but like I don't really like him bringing back like Hibana's sisters. Like I get like obviously he wants to make the world all happy and everything like that, but at the same time they were dead for like 10 years. Same thing with Benimaru's like mentor or whatever. He was dead for a while. He didn't really need to be brought back. But and like that's just once again a nitpicky thing where I feel like it's making it seem more like legitimately nothing in the past that happened really mattered, other than what Shinra wanted to matter or not, which is, I guess, it's okay. I just didn't really like it, and that's a personal opinion where like I want things to have happened in the show to have mattered a little bit, and like the backstories of characters and what make characters the way that they are, I want them to matter a little bit. And so like because like once again Benimaru and Hibana are like as strong as they are, like the way they are, because of like how their backstories are, just completely wiping what happened with them is not something I'm the biggest fan of. I could go into a side tangent of why this makes me more critical of everyone's beloved show, Attack on Titan, but I'm not gonna, because I feel like that's a very provocative thing to say, that I'm not the biggest fan of Attack on Titan either. I'm just gonna put this like nested in the video to make people mad at me for being a shit anime fan who doesn't like good stuff and being a contrarian, even though I'm not. And I think if I would be able to more well articulate my criticisms with Attack on Titan for some reason than Fire Force, but I just wanted to talk about this because it is, I don't know, a yap session. This is like once again a complete string of thought, no emphasis on like a coherent sentence that I'm making. I don't even know where I am in the video anymore. I don't even know where I'm in my criticisms. I think I got everything out of the way. Once again, if I had to give this a rating, okay, and I'm going to say this in advance, 5 is average. 5 is like there's nothing wrong or nothing good about the show. It's average. I'm giving it a 7 out of 10 because, and I can say this why, the ratings heavily weighted down by my enjoyment of the first 2 seasons. And like, that's kind of what I'm rating it on, is how much did I like the show as a whole. Because I really liked the 3rd season, but I did not like the first 2, I'm going to give it a 7 because I feel like it just can't go any higher than that because of 2/3 of the show just not being the most enjoyable things to me. Does that make it bad? No. Once again, I said it's above average show that's heavily weighted down by my opinion of the first 2 seasons. And I guess I can just do an in conclusion thing, even though I've said this before. I liked how they did this stuff with Adela. I really liked how that developed and how they justified it. I kind of liked how, I guess, it tied in the Soul Eater. And even though I've never seen Soul Eater, and I did get this spoiled to me many times, that Fire Force is connected to Soul Eater, and I wish that didn't happen because I think it would have been more surprising to me because people on the internet, when new stuff comes out, cannot shut the fuck up about the future or like the manga of the show. And so maybe I would enjoy Fire Force even more if I didn't get so many things spoiled to me. Like once again, I also got Shinra Bancho Man spoiled to me in the intro of season 3, and also by my friend who talked about Shinra becoming the god. Maybe that's also one of the reasons why I didn't like it as much, or like the 3rd season didn't even weight it up even more, is because I got some stuff spoiled to me. And so I'm also saying that now as that's a potential reason for why maybe my enjoyment's not like an 8 or 9 out of 10. Because I don't think it's a 10 out of 10. I will say that now. It will never be a 10 out of 10 for me. I'm sorry. This probably made no sense to anyone who's watching it. It's probably seemed like the most incoherent explanation of why or why not I like this show. And I think that's mainly because I tried not to talk about what I talked about in the first video I made because I didn't want to be redundant. But, you know, who the fuck watched that video? So maybe I should have repeated myself. But whatever. I enjoyed the show, is what I'm trying to say. That's what you get. If you want to get anything from this, I'd like the Fire Force. But that's really all I got to say for today. So thanks for watching. Goodbye.